Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Airmans bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Airmans.
Live from the den of the Puppies of the Apocalypse, the Bunny Pen in Ottawa, Canada, Melbourne down under, Ryan's Pad in Denver, and the TARDIS in Miami, it's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show. We just want to let you know that this episode had some audio problems, so I've had to re-record the intros and beginning information. So just FYI out there, for those of you who are wondering where this episode might have gone, here it is. Update, of course, you've heard this all before, but we do this on our own time and for free because we are like you, mead lovers, and and we want to learn more about mead. However, it costs over $200 a month to put the show on the air between the software, the hardware, and the storage costs. We're hoping to be able to upgrade that, but we need your help. So if you'll consider becoming a supporting patron member for only $30 a year, we'll not only give you access to the Got Mead Forum patron forums, which have award-winning recipes in them, and our Got Mead Facebook patron group, but you'll be helping to support Got Mead, get the word out about mead to as many people as possible, and help this show grow and get better. So we hope you'll consider that. It's only a little over 50 cents a week, and you get access to all that and more. So thank you so much. For those of you that have subscribed over the last week, we appreciate it. Those of you that are renewing, you rock, and thank you so much. If you want to listen to us live, just go to gotmead.com and click on Got Mead Live Radio Show. You'll see a player down the page, and that will be showing whatever was most recent show, or if we're live, it'll show us as live, and you can tune in right then and there. If you prefer to listen to us later on your drive time or as you're working around the house or what have you, you can catch us on Spreaker, which is where we broadcast through, as well as iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, and Stitcher Radio. Just search for Got Mead Live. We got replays going back to the beginning of the show there and on gotmead.com as well, and the player on Gotmead will let you play anytime you want. You can find us online at, of course, gotmead.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/gotmead, and our group, which is facebook.com/groups/gotmead. On Twitter, we are at GotMead Now. If you can't call us, feel free to tweet us when we're live during the show. We're usually watching the feed. And if you'd like to send us a question, put your mouse over Got Mead Live Radio Show on gotmead.com and just click on the drop down, and you'll see that there's a place where you can enter questions, suggestions, and ideas for who you'd like to see us have on the show. And if Skype is cooperating when we're live on the show, you can try to call us at 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. I'm going to go ahead and skip the tasting notes for AJ. Well, okay, I'll read them. I was drinking Cellarman's Radsgar, which is a dry, fruity mead. It's a really gorgeous deep pink color and was clear as a bell. I got a can of it when I was at Cellarman's last year. It's carbonated, lots of raspberry with this smooth honey note, but it's off dry. Lots of honey and fruit in the nose and the taste. It's a real easy drinker, and when I go home next week, I'm going to be stopping by there on my way back down to get resupplied. So if you want to try something like this, Cellarman's is located in Hazel Park, Michigan, and you can find them and where you can get their meads at cellarmans.com, cellarmens.com. AJ was drinking Honey Run Blackberry that she opened 3 weeks before the show, and she said it was really awesome, a really amazing mead, and I would tend to agree with her. I like Honey Run's Blackberry as well. Shout out to Yannick, who is our YouTube guru. Apparently somebody reported our channel as not suitable for YouTube, and YouTube, in its glory, decided to kill our channel without letting us know ahead of time. They just told us when they did it, no warnings or anything. However, Yannick was able to work with them to get us back online, and we're really happy about that. He's also in the process of cleaning up our YouTube channel, where all of our episodes are also featured, and setting us up with full episodes instead of being all cut up into pieces like they were before. So let us know if you like it better that way. And Yannick will be uploading episodes on YouTube around 24 hours after each show. So if you're a YouTuber, that may be good news for you. Oh, and the person who maliciously reported us, yeah, YouTube wasn't real crazy about that. So that person will probably have some backlash on them. So there is some justice in the world. Tonight's guest is Adam Thompson, owner of Machination Meadworks in Loveland, Colorado. And Machination is up and running, and it's a pretty good meadery. I have not had the benefit of getting to try their meads yet, but Adam he got it started in 2013 when he started kind of the process. And he has over a decade of brewing experience and a few dozen medals, including 5 Mazers. So he's an Army 3rd Ranger Battalion person. Thank you, Adam, for your service. Much appreciated. And that experience taught him never to accept failure. So he's gone through the miles of government red tape that you have to do to open a meadery to make this dream a reality. They are going to be releasing locally in and around Loveland, Colorado, and nationally through Vino Shipper. So go check them out. And so without further ado, here is Adam.
Production. I already split the first production in half. Just to be able to afford the bottles, boxes, labels, caps, all of it to get that run out. So yeah, I'm pretty much cash flow is really big in business, as I've been learning.
Yeah, it is really, really important. So you've got your base company set up, but you need to just be able to buy the goods, the bottles, the honey, the ingredients, and just to get yourself started. Is that right?
That's exactly right.
Right.
So what was the nature of the?
Have you got? Oh, sorry, AJ.
I'm just wondering what was the nature of the overruns that led to needing to go to Indiegogo.
Where would you like me to start?
Oh, it's like that.
How much time do you have?
Well,
yeah.
2 hours
anyway.
anyway.
Apparently. After all, we don't have Vicky filling in the space.
Just poor budgeting on a couple of the construction items that I had to go through, but a lot of it was the city throwing one loop after another at me.
Okay.
And changing the plans, adding more things on, and adding some really unnecessary costs to what I was doing. And then on top of that, because I delayed submitting for licensing, the license fee in Colorado went up, I don't know, another $500 or something. So it's just little things here and there, and just those little pieces that you didn't think of when you were budgeting that startup that came in, and it's just like a few bucks here and there, but it really starts to add up.
Mm-hmm. Well, that, and I mean, if you end up delaying, then are you renting a facility? Did you build a facility?
So I am running out of my detached garage behind my house.
Okay.
And
awesome.
So it's a pretty unique setup, and that was one of the reasons why I had so much difficulty getting through permitting to get this built out, because you walk into the city and you tell them, hey, I want to build a meadery in my garage, and the person at the front desk says, cool, that's awesome, let's help you get started, and they give you all the paperwork you need. You think you're good to go, you start getting things ready, and then the guys who actually review the permits call you up and go, whoa, you can't do this. You can't run a meadery in your garage.
Why the heck not?
Where's your fire exit?
On fire.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm not heating my honey, so I'm using a no-boil method. There's no burners in here. There's nothing to start a fire. They said, oh, well, too bad. you need to act like it's going to start a fire. And you need to add on all this extra stuff in case it does. So I started applying permitting for that, and then they came back and they said, "Oh, well, we did some research, and it looks like that garage was never permitted when your home was built."
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
And I said, "Do you have the original permits for my home and blueprints for my home?" And they said, "Well, no, we don't have those anymore. Your home was built in 1950, and we didn't take any records before 70 something."
Then why on earth would you think that the garage would it be any different from that?
Do you want to know the answer?
They're idiots.
Because this is a two-part garage, and the second half of it was an add-on that was permitted in 68.
Oh,
and they have a
God.
record of that permit, but not of the permit for this part.
Wow.
Isn't that ridiculous? That's called the state doing anything they can to stop you from.
Yeah, well, here at least, there's no chance of me ever running this out of my detached garage because Canada, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of the difficulties there. How are your hives going? 200, right?
100 hives.
100. Wow.
Yeah, gotta have 100 hives, although there are certain provinces which have decided to lower that to 75, which is still pretty ridiculous if you're going to be small time.
Do you
Do
need
you
to have
just have
bees
to
in
have the
them?
boxes?
Yeah.
Or,
You need to have minimum 100 active hives because in Ontario anyways, you have to register every hive you have. It doesn't cost anything to register, but they like to know who's got what hives where so that they can, check for diseases and stuff like that.
Mm.
And, I'm really okay with them wanting to know who's got hives where. That is completely okay with me. But the fact that, they have to all be alive. So, if I did have 100 hives and then had a really bad winter with a lot of CCD or something, I would no longer be eligible. It's just stupid.
Right.
However, that's my problem. We're talking about your problems today.
Oh, boy. So where do we go next? All right, so, well, I'll take you back to the beginning. I decided that I was going to start under this name back in 2013. I made the name. I started on the logo, and the logo has really developed a lot over the years. When you have 5 years to work on your branding, that happens. So I ran through that, got everything, just got some plans started. I started up a business model. So I've never run a business plan for the meadery. Everything here runs off a model that can switch on the fly. It's just Excel spreadsheets, have all my costs, the cost to make a batch of mead, what I expect to profit off that, and all the expenses along the way. And this model has been really useful for me. I feel like it's a lot better than a business plan because, like I said, I change it on the fly anytime I want. So one of those changes was 2013, I decided to start the meadery. And in 2014, we left Florida and moved to Colorado and flipped everything on its head. So I went back to the drawing board, just went straight to, making mead, refining my recipes, getting better. And I have gotten a lot better. A lot of those modern techniques I started involving in my process and really improving the quality. Started entering competitions and started winning. And winning against, or among some really good mead makers. So, some validation there for what I'm doing.
Cool.
See, we actually picked our house pretty much based on the fact that it had this detached garage, and it was in a community that appeared to be very friendly towards home-based businesses. Appeared to be. So, once we got in here, I started building the place out. I redid the ceiling. If you've seen the pictures on my Facebook or Instagram, I redid the whole ceiling in blue stained pine. Just tore the whole place down. I made it into my meadery, and then, bit by bit, I've improved it, and building up savings until I could get this process rolling. And I finally started that process back in November. So my biggest hurdle to get through was getting plumbing out here, because it was just a garage. It was finished, had drywall up, had an AC unit in here, and that was really about it. So I'm more of a do-it-yourselfer than anything, and I kind of one of the philosophies of the meadery is, it's all on my hands. I'm doing virtually everything here myself. And that was the first thought I had was, okay, I need plumbing out here. I'm going to do it myself. So I applied for all the permitting, went through the process, and the first thing the city did was kick back my permit application and said, well, no, you can't have water out there. The space isn't heated. And I responded back, actually it is heated. And a couple days later, they said, well, you can't have that space be a habitable space. You're not allowed to live in your detached garage. You don't have the zoning for that.
But I'm not trying to live in it.
I said, where did you come up with this? I'm not trying to live in my garage. I pretty much am now, but I'm not trying to live in my garage. And then a few days later, they I guess put their heads together, looking for an answer or a reason to reject me. And they said, are you trying to make a business in this space? And I said, yes, I am. Is that a problem? And they never responded.
Oh, Lord.
And so I work in the landscape industry. This was that process took about 4 months for me to get through all the applications, all the conversations, all the back and forth with them. And they kept on kicking me back, excuse after excuse, and then finally no more conversation with me. And right then we got back into the busy season. I was too busy to focus on it. I said, okay, they're not going to let me have this space. I'm going to start looking at a commercial space and try to figure out how to afford that. Well, Brian can tell you, the real estate industry in Colorado really isn't very friendly right now. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's because of the pot industry taking up everything.
So I spent that summer searching online, looking at places, going and visiting places that I thought would be good for my meadery, and basically every time I found a spot that was cheap enough that looked like it would work, I would call the realtor and find out that the advertised price was nowhere near the actual price. And then, of course, you've got triple N on top of that. And with the completely unpredictable snowfall here in Colorado being a major part of your maintenance expenses, no idea what that cost would be at the end of the year, aside from just a budgetary projection that they give you. So I went back to the drawing board, started looking at what it would take to get a commercial plumber to come out to the space. Shorten it up, I found one. I got him going. We got everything set up through the city. We got my business permit applied for with the city. And at the same time, he was running his plumbing permits under my original permit that I had applied for because they told me it would be faster. So we get to the point where he's calling me and he says, hey, the city called me up. They said, everything's good. We're good to go. They just need you to go in and sign some paperwork. Said, great. I hop in the truck. I drive down there. He's headed up to collect the first payment to start working. And I walk into the city and they call me into the office and they say, can you sit down? Yeah. Well, the municipal coding for Loveland says that you cannot have this percentage of your homes used for this space. And I said, well, you're wrong, because this is the code. And I showed it to them. And they said, well, still, because I've done my research, I'm not dumb. And they said, still, your business activity, what you're doing, is too big for the permit that you applied for.
Oh,
and I
God.
said, show me on the regulations where it says that. And he couldn't. So then he turns me over. He says, well, I'm going to review it. And he turns me over to the permitting reviewer, where she tells me that my detached garage, my 280 square foot detached garage, is now a commercial building. I believe it's zoned. I would need to get an architect to come out and do drawings of my space. I could not do it myself, which I have some experience with that too. But I couldn't do it myself. I had to hire an architect. They would draw my space up and determine whether or not I would be zoned, I believe it was F1 or F2, which would mean that I would have to get in my 280 square foot space zoned as a commercial warehouse with fire sprinklers installed. It's probably worth more than my whole house. So you can imagine I had a little bit of resistance to that. And here's a big tip for everyone out there. If you're trying to do something like this, kudos to my buddy Jim Davis, who gave me the advice. He said, go to your city councilor and talk to them. I went to one. She never responded. She blew me off for the meeting that we had scheduled. So I went to the next one, and she did respond, and she did come, and she came. She saw my space. I told her my story. I told her what I was doing. She looked around and she said, "This is awesome. But this is a business incubator. You're going to eventually one day fill a retail space in our downtown area with this business that you're starting." And I said, "Exactly. You get it. You know, that's the goal." And I just can't understand for the life of me why the city was so opposed to getting to that point. But eventually, she took it up higher up. She got with the head of the development center. They made some amendments to what they were telling me. They pushed through my permit, and they pushed my building permit through as what do they call it? A hybrid model between commercial and residential.
Oh, cool.
So that's where I had to go in and put a firewall in, tear out the exterior wall. They even made me tear out the wall on the other side of the garage that is not part of the business and redo that as well, even though they're two separate buildings according to their own permits. Anyway. Yeah, pretty much the line on the floor, and I've got a shelving system set up here. But what I found when I was looking for this, because I knew that this was going to be a problem in this space. It's so small. Even my shelving that I have here is not big enough for the amount of mead that I will produce in the space. An off-site facility called Source of Nature, and they sell a lot of flavoring additives to the beer industry, which I'm also interested in. And they also have storage space in there that is bonded. So nice. I can legally store my mead off-site in their space, and their rental rates are really affordable. And that solved that problem with storage. And, you know, I'm hoping that what I keep in stock here will be pretty much just the stuff selling out through Vino Shipper. And whatever I keep there is just whatever I don't pre-sell before that next batch comes out.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I had some friends who had some problems like that once. They turned a garage into a shop, and they had no end of trouble. And it turned out when they talked to their insurance agents about it at the beginning, and it was all fine. And then they found out like 15 years later, no, we never insured that. Yeah, gas heating and everything. Like, we never insured that. No, we told you no. Excuse me, I have paperwork saying you did. Yeah, so it was. Yeah, it's always exciting trying to start small business.
Get everything in writing.
Yeah, get it all in writing.
Speaking of that, so you know, during this whole process with the city, here's another tip for everyone out there starting a meadery. When I was having all these problems with the city, I started logging all of my conversations. I built a Word document and log the time, the date, who I spoke to, what they said, what I said. Where I could, I followed up with an email with them as well, restating our conversation. Just, simply enough, it's, hey, did I get all this information right? And if they don't correct you, it kind of weighs in your favor if you ever have to take action on it.
That's a really good idea.
I found out was the state of Colorado is a one-party consent state. So that means that you can record a conversation as long as you consent to it. So before I went into my meetings with the city, I consented to recording my conversations with them.
That's a really good idea, too.
They said on record. So they couldn't change their story anymore, which they were so fond of doing.
Okay, let's see. What other questions have we got for you?
Which means that this is completely dead air, Vicky, because no one can hear you. So
somebody hurry up and talk over Vicky.
Yeah.
We get to be Interruptosaurus. So anyway, what production level are you at right now?
I have the ability to put out, it's 400. Sorry, it's been a really long day. It's 480 gallons a quarter, so just under 2,000 gallons a year. With the space that I'm at, and where I'm at with funding right now, I cut that production in half for planning for the next 2 quarters. And from there, we'll see. I mean, obviously, if the crowdfunding goes well, I can probably fill all the tanks and proceed that way.
Cool.
And just
I assume that this production facility that you've got in your garage that you've managed to kick off, you're not allowed to have a tasting room. That's going to have to be an upgrade for when you go downtown, is it?
Say that again.
Are you able to have a tasting room in your garage there, or do you have to move downtown?
Oh, no. That was the city made me sign a couple of agreements with them to have the space approved. First agreement was that no other soul could set foot inside of the meadery. So that means no tasting room, no tours, no private sales here, nothing at all. Only me.
Are you allowed to go to farmers markets and sell there?
Not in the state of Colorado, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I've never heard of anybody selling at farmers markets. What I can do is I can, and what I've been doing to get the word out is I've been holding classes for my homebrew club. I'm going to be holding a class about mead making for another homebrew club shortly here. And I've been doing some education classes on mead and, mead evaluation and tasting classes, things like that for some of the local homebrew shops too. So it's helping to get let more people taste the product and might have been available. The biggest thing has been getting involved with the Colorado Mead Makers group too that we have here. Getting with those guys, bouncing ideas off of them, and taking things into my homebrew club. And one of the coolest things, one of the things I'm really proud of, is taking a lot of those guys in my homebrew club who said that they hated mead and turning them into mead lovers.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that is good. So, what's your main mechanism of sale? Is it just internet?
No, what I'm planning on right now, and I would love for it to go mainly through Vino Shipper, honestly, because it's better margins, better income for me, and if everything goes through a meat club, I just move product a lot faster because it goes out the door the day it's bottled, pretty much. But no, the main mechanism is going to be going to retail liquor stores and maybe a couple of restaurants and bars here and there.
Okay. Are you going to be doing that delivery yourself? And does the council have an issue with you bringing a delivery truck in if you're going to be couriering stuff?
somewhat. I can't have a I can have a delivery truck on site, a large delivery truck, once a month per the permitting that I have. But a lot of this I should be able to get a lot of this out just through a small vehicle, a few cases at a time. If everything's going local, it won't be that difficult. And there's no regulation on how much that I can drive my own car to and from my own driveway.
Your own driveway.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
They might regulate that too. God.
I'm sure they would like to.
Yeah.
So how did
was
you...
there a second part to that question?
No, I believe that was it. But AJ had a question for you.
I was just wondering how you got into mead in the first place and what your favorite styles are.
Oh, sure. Great question. I got into mead through homebrewing with beer. So Charlie Papazian's book, I was scrolling through it, getting inspiration for some of the beers that I was making. And I got to the back where he has a couple of chapters or a couple of mead recipes and then tells you what mead is. And, I got into craft beer and home brewing because I wanted to taste things that I couldn't taste outside of a store shelf. It's if I can go to a store and buy it, I was never really motivated to brew that style. I always wanted to brew something outside of it. So when I saw mead, I said, I've got to try this. And first batch was actually pretty good, way too acidic. No temperature control. It was in Florida. It was on the floor of my living room. And, no nutrient, nothing, just honey water yeast and probably champagne yeast or maybe it was Monster Steak. I forget which one Charlie recommended. But I'm pretty confident that's the only mead that I've ever brewed from a recipe. And from there, I just started making my own recipes up and trying different things and experimenting. And, if that's the second part of your question, the answer to it is that is my favorite style, is the experimental styles. I like doing something that isn't being done already, or at least not commonly.
Nice.
Well, what currently is your most exciting, your most different experimental style that you're currently playing with?
Vicky says, "How weird are your weird-a-mells?"
Great question. Yeah. So, I went to the Mazer Cup very excited because I had just brewed a mead that nobody had ever made before, and it was just fantastic. I was getting rave reviews from friends on it and telling me how great it is. So imagine my surprise when I put my my oatmeal raisin cookie mead in the competition, and the day before we're at the mead tasting, and my buddies over there next to me are serving nom nom oatmeal raisin cookie mead.
Oh, that was yours! Oh my heavens!
And I may have thrown some shade at Matt Nash, and that we're friends still, but yeah, I was upset.
Oh dear.
But no, I've got some of the recipes coming out. I've got one that's a roasted hash green chili mixed with orange blossom honey, and that one just comes out like spicy candy. It's a fun one. I've got another one with rooibos tea and ancho chilies, and I'm not trying to be the Casa Camel meadery, but those two just seemed right to come out fall. The other release, and it's part of the the whole idea of my meadery is to go to the extreme and to do things fun and exciting, right? Because I'm a big craft beer fan, and when I go into a beer or craft beer store, big liquor store, I look for whatever's new, and I've noticed that with myself, and I've noticed it with other beer drinkers, and it seems to be an issue too with some of my friends in the industry. Some of the bigger names, they tend to they've been finding that their standards, their beers, have been their flagships. They're not selling anymore because of the people like me who go into the store and say, I don't want that. It's going to be here next week. So that's my model is these four brands or these four types of mead will ship every single quarter. These four different releases. And, my buddy that I do a lot of, he does a lot of consulting for me. He said, you're going to have a traditional mead in stock. And I said, but I want to be crazy. And he said, well, who do you want to be the one to introduce your customers to traditional meads, or do you want somebody else to do it? Do you want to go to somebody and say, or when somebody asks you, well, what does a regular mead taste like without all these flavors in it? What are you going to tell them? Go down there and buy that guy's mead? No. So I had to have a traditional mead in stock. But what I came up with to make it my own is that traditional mead is going to change every single quarter. It's going to be different. It might be different honeys, different sweetness levels, sparkling, and different honey blends too. So it's going to change every single quarter. So this quarter I got the Zambian honey. I've got a honey that I've never tried before in my first release commercial mead.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I can understand. So, do you tend more towards sweet or dry when you're making meads?
I actually really dry. I like one of my favorite things to do with experimenting is getting a new honey and just fermenting that honey to completely dry. No, nothing else added into it. No sweeteners. No flavorings. Just finding out what that honey tastes like, fermented to nothing. And I go out and I buy these different honeys, different whatever regions I get them from, different sources, and I just do that and see what it makes. And not just with honey either. I'll do it with other sugar types. I fermented down basically anything I can get my hands on. I'm not just in the mead or in the beer. I like fermenting everything that will bubble.
If it fits in a bucket, you'll ferment it. I think we get along I think we get along just great.
Have you ever fermented motor vehicle
Brian
parts?
Hey, Mitch is asking if you've ever fermented automotive parts, which I have done for my Chevette Weird Mills.
Yes, I'm not familiar with that one. I never got to taste that. Yeah. No, Ryan's gotten the unfortunate chance to taste some of my meads. Actually, Vicky, a funny story from, I think that was Mazer Cup. That was 2017. I put my entries in, and I always put one entry in that is less than good because I feel like the judges need to be punished every once in a while. You can't just sit around and drink free meat all day. You gotta pay for it, right? I'm sitting at.
I'm sure they do. God. I was in the pouring room. I'm sure they do pay for it. Not everything is good.
Yeah, so I'm sitting at my table, and I hear from the table behind me, teriyaki mead. Yep, that was mine. So that was a fun one. That was a mead. My dad brought me 5 gallons of maple sap from Michigan. I threw some honey in there. I fermented it down, and I used a WLP. I think it was 470. It's supposed to be Belgian strong yeast or Belgian golden strong. And after I pitched the yeast, I started reading some posts on it and found out that it produces these really weird off flavors. And the more I tasted it, and especially the more maple syrup that I added into it, because it just wasn't tasting right. I'd add more maple syrup, it's wrong. Add more, it's still wrong. And one day I tasted it, I pegged it. It was soy sauce. Tastes just like soy sauce. So I took it down, or I posted something about it, and my friend Deb over Queen Bee, she says, well, why don't you just add some ginger to it and make teriyaki sauce? And I did, and she was just, and I use it to punish my friends every once in a while.
Oh dear.
Uh-huh.
Oh
Yes,
dear.
yes.
So that sort of brings me into Mead Made Evil. Where did that come from? And
Well, I've got a really sardonic sense of humor, right? So it's a little, tongue-in-cheek poke at that. But it's also, sort of a deeper philosophy of, in life, you're told, grow up, follow the rules, go to school, do everything right, and you'll be happy. And I've done that. I've done everything the way that I was supposed to, and I was never happy with it. And but you're told that to break from that mold and to go out on your own, oh, you're the bad guy when you're doing it at work. Why are you trying to leave this company? Why are you trying to go do your own thing? So society seems to push you towards following that model of just working for somebody else for the rest of your life. And, that's Mead Made Evil is kind of breaking that mold for me.
okay.
That's cool.
And you mentioned that you're.
And I'm evil.
Yeah. Well, that's a given, isn't it?
I don't know about evil, but unconventional. I'll give you unconventional.
So, you mentioned Zambian honey before. Is that the stuff from Dutch Gold, or did you source it from somewhere else?
That's it, yes.
Yeah, and what do you think of that particular honey? Can you describe it?
Carvin, I saw him post, I don't know if it was on the group today or if it was earlier in the week. I've been running from project to project and still working my day job and still being a dad. So I'm having a really hard time keeping up with things. But I think it was today, and he posted that he got some cherries and some chocolate and some dark fruit. But more than anything, he got tobacco, and he nailed it. That's
Vicky apologizes for that screech.
Oh my god! You were saying.
No. So Carvin posted up his tasting notes, and he said that honey tasted a lot to him like tobacco, and he really did. He nailed it. That smell of tobacco to me is so similar to raisins, but it was dead on right. That is tobacco to a T when you go back and smell that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really interesting honey.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, probably, Vicky, but no one can hear you. Yes, you'll have to bring me a sample, Vicky. Yes, that would be wonderful when you come later on. But
now Vicky's threatening Hamish. This is great. Okay, children,
yeah,
play
so
nice.
we're just moving on. Do you have a theme for the meadery, or what kind of vibe are you going for?
Chaotic
if you were
evil?
to open a taste.
Sorry, my
Industrial,
game is showing.
mechanical, steampunk. I don't know. It's a little bit of every aspect of my personality at this point coming out in the way that the meadery is moving and the imagery of it is. But a lot of it is pushing towards that mechanical, steampunk kind of imagery. The names of the meads are more what I feel like are thought provoking, or starting to tell a story, but not actually telling you the story so that you make it in your own mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Vicky wants to know what kind of steampunk stuff you've collected so far.
I don't know. Oh, I see. No, not really. I'm really driven towards, or really, I guess, inspired by the imagery of moving gears. I've collected some watches and old radios, things like that. But I'm not a real big steampunk nerd. It's just kind of what has been the core of that imagery that I'm pushing out.
I would love to see some stainless steel fermenters like painted or jacketed in brass or something. There's some
brass
some really
and
nice.
wood.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the things I could do with it. Things I could do if I won the lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
sheath all your pipes in external brass and.
Yeah, starting a meadery is supposed to be the quickest way to get rich nowadays.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah, that's the official version.
I don't know. I was always told about wineries. The way to make $2 million is the way to make $1 million is to spend $10 million on a winery.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't necessarily believe that, or otherwise I would have never gone this far with this idea.
Right.
And I don't think anybody else would still be in business, but yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, that is true.
So we had a comment from one of our viewers on the Slack that from Jeff Catra, saying that he's never had good luck with maple unless fermentation was completely done and stabilized. Fermented maple just has a weird vibe to him. Have you got any comments on how to use maple effectively?
No, I agree with him.
Well, that's fair.
Well,
look, I'm not your technical. I'm not your technical mead maker. I do a lot of crazy things. I mix things up. I learn a little bit along the way, but yeah, I mean, if you want to get into what degrees to ferment at, or things like that, there's other guys that I get that information off of. There's a lot of guys out there a lot smarter than me.
Well, personally, I have pretty good luck when I mix a kilogram of honey with a 540 milliliter can of maple syrup. It starts out about the same strength as a Joe's Ancient Orange. And the way I ferment, anyways, the way I abuse my yeast, it finishes at about 1.025 or so, and that leaves enough sweetness that you're still getting the maple.
What are those measurements that you just gave in freedom?
I'm sorry, I'm Canadian. Forgive me.
Sane, did you say? You're sane? Yeah.
Yes. What's that? 2.2 pounds?
It's about 2 pounds to about half a quart, so a pint.
Okay. I don't even know what a pint is. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
a quart's around a liter, so yeah, about half of that. A little more than half of that. I only know that because I have a bottle that's got quarts and liters mixed and matched all over the place. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, it starts out at about 1.135 for 1 gallon, and it finishes at about 1.025, and that leaves just enough sweetness you can still taste the maple. And I haven't really found it gives anything weird unless I let it go dry.
See, I'm more along Ryan's lines on that with letting the mead go dry and back sweetening it. I don't really work the other way with keeping them sweet. I've been able to do that where and a lot of people disagree with and I understand the hesitancy because it's unpredictable, but you can throw your sulfite sorbate and cold crash and finish with a sweet mead, but I like to let them go dry for sure.
Well, by all rights, what I did should go dry because I was using yeast C1118, but apparently I abused my yeast too badly to let it happen, and the couple of times I've tried to update my recipe to make it go a little bit smoother, I haven't liked it. So I actually like my yeast abuse recipes because I'm a bad example.
The Belgians, they're pretty popular for that. and I think they make pretty good beer too.
Cool. So have you got a favorite yeast that you like to use, or are you all over the place with that too?
I'm grinning ear to ear because I'm going to piss Ryan off and say 71B. No, I've experimented with a lot of different yeast, but 71B, I know what I'm going to get out of it. It's one that I use as a baseline for a lot of meats. K1B, it's another really good yeast. Those pretty much those two are what I build recipes off of, and then if I need to change that recipe, then I go to different styles.
Okay, that's fair.
Or different yeasts.
Yeah, K1V is one of my go-tos as well.
It's pretty aggressive stuff.
Oh, it's hands down my favorite yeast. So.
Well, that, and it doesn't really care if I let it get a little warm, which sometimes happens, despite being up in northern Canadistan.
Yeah, but it does cool things if you keep it cold too. Throw some nice funky flavors.
Yeah, one of these days when I have the ability to, I'll do some experimenting with that. Same yeast, different temperatures, but that's not going to happen for a while.
Oh yeah, and then there's another one. Ryan turned me onto that one. CY. Oh, go ahead. He's probably stirring his Mead. But yeah, he turned me on to CY 3079, and that's also that's a really good yeast. And it's slow, it's very slow, but it makes pretty good mead.
Do you have a specific style that you prefer to use different yeasts for? Like, is there one that you prefer for your traditionals and one that you prefer for things you're going to carbonate, or do you sort of pick it per recipe?
Per recipe. Yeah, just for what I'm going for what I get out of the honey, and my process with a lot of the experimental stuff is to just try something new and see where it goes. And that's where I've made a lot of spiced meads, Metlins and Melomels, or especially the fruit and spice style, because I'll make that recipe. I'll see where it's going. I'll get hints of flavor compounds from that honey. And when it finishes fermenting out, I start adding onto it with different spices to accentuate that and start to build a complex flavor there with all the compounds present. Okay. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it's pretty bad.
Sometimes it works, and sometimes it's a learning experience.
And the learning experiences are the ones that I take to the Colorado Mead Maker group.
Well, to be fair, this year at Mazer Cup for the after event parties, I brought a couple of bad examples just because I figure people should see what happens when you mistreat your yeast. I think only one of them got spat out by one person, but yeah, I mean, you need to try the stuff that doesn't work too. You learn just as much doing it wrong as you do doing it right.
I definitely agree with that.
So what do you see as the most critical part of your fermentation process? Feeding, stirring, temperature, ingredients?
All of it. I couldn't say any one part has been the best part of it. Maybe feeding might be the most important, but all the steps that I've integrated into my process have been leaps. Have been multiple steps at a time, and in making those leaps, the product has always improved. So I can't really pinpoint it down to one thing. I don't brew. I feel like there's two categories of brewers. You have your engineers and your artists. And the engineers tweak one process, a tiny fraction, make that batch, and see how it tastes. And people like me, the artist, throws a million different factors into it and just figures, we'll see what happens. It's a much less scientific approach, but it is my approach. Is just much more artistic, much more experimental.
I tend to be like that too, despite actually being trained as an engineer, because I've had enough of math. Ryan, you around?
I'm pretty sure he dropped off a while ago. He hasn't been talking.
He's still showing us the call. Oh well, I don't know. So, so what terrible things can you tell us about Ryan?
Ryan doesn't believe in pH buffering. Is that a terrible thing? Or is
Scandalous.
Buffering?
I have found most of the time I don't need to, except if I'm using something like Red Currents or RC212. It's about the only time I bother even worrying about my pH, because one's very acidic and the other's a whiny pants.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, everything that I've integrated into my meat making process has been several things at a time, and that was one of the things that I integrated in with several other improvements in my process. It worked, and I'm not changing it. I've talked to commercial, people who have been commercial for a while, and they
Hello.
He's back.
You guys were trying to get me on, and I'm scrambling to try to get to my phone to take the mute off, and it's all black. It's been inactive for so long, it was black, and I couldn't find the phone screen, and finally I unplugged myself.
Phone died to screensaver.
Yeah.
So we were just bad-mouthing
so Adam,
talking about pH buffering.
Right.
71B.
Do you want to continue? Yeah. That's all right. I'm good with that. Adam, what kind of gauges will you fly by over the next few years? In other words, have you set up some goals that you want to try to achieve, and short term, long term, or will you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants with that too, because you're not necessarily forced to? I mean, I realize what you're doing, costs money, but you're not having to, make a particular price point every month. Right, exactly. So, what thoughts have you put into that? I mean, you told me that you missed your building, your build out and all of that, and I understand all the difficulties that you had with the city, but I guess so. Then, were some of those things just things that you were not aware of, or would you say most of all of your difficulties have been Jack in the Boxes jumping out of the bushes along the way? And what will you do to forgo that happening in the future as you start to travel, to where you're heading?
It's a good question. I'm the kind of person who, I've been preparing this process and the meadery and the dream of this for the last 5 years, and brewing for even longer, and having that in the back of my mind. So I did a lot of planning. I did a lot of research, but some of this stuff you can't account for when it comes to those surprise expenses. And people will tell you, oh well, you need to have this much money on hand. You need to, whatever your budget is, double it. They'll tell you things like that, and it's just unrealistic. And I see that as being a dream killer, really, because they're going to tell you, well, if you don't have $1 million, you're wasting your time. And what kind of thing is that to say to somebody with a dream? And I am proving as proof of that. I started the meadery with a budget of $30,000, and not a lot of people can do that. Not a lot of people can go in without being owned by somebody else, not being owned by a bank or an investor telling them what to do and what they have to do. So kind of off topic but I saw a little bit of where you were going with that. The beautiful thing about my model is, like you said, I don't have to pay rent. I still work my day job, so I don't have to pay my own salary. There are a lot of negatives to that, like, running home from work to kickstart my crowdfunding campaign and beat my mead and get ready for an interview here. It's a really rough process, but as far as planning and having thought out how that's going to go, I have, built into my projections, essentially doubling every year in size, and with the ability to do off-site storage, that should be possible. And seeing how this next couple of quarters goes and how my production works and how sales go is really the big thing. We'll see how realistic those projections are and whether or not I can fill this space with even more gear, because it's really tight the way it is right now. But that is the dream, would be to double every year until I get to the point where I'm moving myself into a retail space and leaving that day job and doing this full time.
Have you set your first year's goals for how many cases you're going to try to sell? I know earlier you spoke about, I don't know if it was the city that allowed it or just your space and the time frame of turning over the different batches, but I was doing the math and it looked like you were saying that you were able to do 1,000 cases a year. Is that your 12-month goal, or?
Let me see. That's putting me out at the rate that I'm at right now for the next 2 quarters. It's going to be 120 cases a quarter. So yeah, if and when I fill all these fermenters.
Oh, that's right. You said it was 1,000 gallons, right?
2,000 gallons.
2,000 gallons.
But working with my consultant. By the way, if you're looking to start a meadery, go look at your SBDC or SCORE, one of those consulting groups. The SBDC is government owned, so for $30, I went through an introductory class, sat in that seminar for a couple hours, and from there I was able to.
That's called SCORE, right? The SCORE program downtown in Denver.
Yeah, SCORE does it, and then up here, it's the Small Business Development Center.
I see. Because I did the SCORE stuff. Right.
Yeah. So $30 for your introductory, and then everything after that is free. So I get to sit down with my consultant once a month, and we just talk to business and where we're at, and he gives me some advice. And that was one of the things that he told me was, take a look at your cash flow, because your model projects you making money, but you never know until you look at your cash flow sheet. You might find out that 3 months down the road you're flat broke. And so I ran that, and it turns out, the way I was running it, even with aggressive sales expectations, I was going to be flat broke in a few months.
You're still flat broke, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we looked at that and we scaled it back and cut production in half. And for now, those fermenters are going to sit empty. I'm talking with somebody about something we could do with those fermenters, but I'm not ready to go public with any of that yet. So then there's also the opportunity. One of the crowdfunding bonuses is that you could actually get your batch brewed in my tanks. So there, but yeah, just looking at some outside the box solutions to dealing with those empty fermenters that aren't making me any money.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
You'll intentionally. Go ahead, Hamish.
It's essentially custom brewing.
Sorry, I lost the mute button. Yeah, essentially becoming a you brew it store or something like that would be handy to use those extra fermenters. It's a nice idea if you can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. We'll see if that pans out or not. But I may actually be able to help somebody else achieve their dream while I'm reaching mine.
Or at least make enough mead for a wedding or something.
Yeah, there's enough of those around.
Will the council allow them on the property? These other people?
Nope.
No, essentially, they'd have to purchase the batch ahead of time, effectively.
Right. They'll have to get everything set up and then trust that I go through the process properly and brew it to quality.
You could always set something up over like video chat or something like that so they can see what you're doing. As long as you don't drop your phone in the mead.
Wait, have you had my phone mead?
Nice. You made a phone mead.
Well, it depends because I've had it.
Ryan is on the front lines of tasting some of my worst meats. We can tell you some horror stories.
Yeah, but along with that, you always bring some very nice stuff too. But I've always been proud of you and the nice meats that you turn out, and I have no doubt that you'll be successful.
Thank you, Ryan. It means a lot.
You bet, brother.
So as a home brewer, what's your favorite size?
For home brewing?
Yeah, for home brewing. What was your favorite size working for home purposes?
Well, even when I brewed 5-gallon batches, so it would pretty much be a 5-gallon batch, but even when I brewed those 5 gallons, most of the time I would split a 5-gallon batch up into 5 1-gallon batches. And, one of the big inspirations along the way was you guys did an interview with Jeremy Kinsel from Hierophant.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Am I saying it right? And he was talking about his stock of different spices and herbs that he uses and blends and meads. And after you guys did that interview, I went out and jumped on one of the spice websites and ordered a ton of different spices that caught my interest. And I'll mix those in with, take a 5-gallon batch of one style of mead, break it into 5 different 1-gallon fermenters, keep one as a traditional, and then mix those different flavors in the other 1-gallon batches, and just taste them and see what happens. And it's always been my favorite way of brewing. So, every time I brew a batch or brewed a batch on a homebrew scale, it was really 5 different batches. And that's been a lot of what I've done. I like 1 gallons too if I have a small amount of honey. You get a few pounds or a kilogram of a new honey. And throw that guy in the fermenter.
Adam, have you been to the tea store, the tea shop in downtown Old Littleton?
I have not.
I'll have to take you down there, dude. Because you walk in here and it's like an old, I think of it like an old apothecary where there's a ceiling that's 10 feet tall and a wall that's 30 feet long, and they've got like 1 square foot drawers. That whole thing is just full of teas, and they're all handmade blends that these people make themselves. It just, when you just said what you like to do, you need to go down to that place, and you could have a whole meadery that did nothing but methyl blends because of all of these different tea profiles that they have down there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
else? Any other questions? Come on,
Sorry.
you guys are running me through the gauntlet. I wasn't prepared for any of this.
Have you got any other fun stories about trying to get yourself registered?
Well, one really cool one was, out of all the problems along the way, one of the big things and one of the big obstacles in my path was that the Larimer County Health Department, so Loveland's in Larimer County, the health department had a bunch of requirements for what I would have to start the metering, and treating it like a commercial restaurant. They were requiring my 3-basin sink, which I ended up getting anyways, a mop washing sink, and a hand washing sink. And they were one of my earlier meetings when I was going through the planning process, and I sat down and I explained to her, I've got my space is if you take the interior measurements, it's 248 square feet on the inside. And I said, I don't really have room for all this. Can't I just wash my hands in the other sink? Do I really need 3 or 5 different basins to wash different things in? And there was just no moving on that. But part of getting set up with the SBDC and going through those courses was, I attended a restaurant. What was it? Basically preparing yourself for these health inspections. And I went to that class, and it had been a while since I spoke with the rep over at the county health department. And while in the class, we're talking about all this stuff, and I raised my hand and I asked, I had a question about what I'm doing, about having a production-only facility. And the guy said, well, the Larimer County Health Department no longer regulates those. And are you sure? And he said, absolutely. And, well, when did this happen? Apparently it was, a few weeks after my last conversation with the rep. So, huge regulatory burden lifted off of my shoulders because they decided that, they no longer needed to regulate this kind of facility.
Good grief.
And it makes sense. I'm not serving food. There's no bathrooms here. There's, that's what I explained to him. I'm going from a sanitary fermenter to a sanitary bottle. And, if I screw something up along the way, I'm going to have a lot of pissed off liquor stores calling me, telling me about it. There's no way I'm getting away from that.
Yeah, it's a garage. You mop the floor, you dump the water at the door. But yeah, I can see how some of these regulations get really, really ridiculous. And then the people that you're talking to don't want to deal with you because you're outside the box and they don't want to think. They just want something that fits neatly in between their little lines that they've drawn. And you don't, so they try to make life difficult for you.
And you're daring to be logical.
Yeah, and you're daring to fight them with logic.
Well, let's have that conversation. So, when my permitting originally got rejected from, once I went to hiring the plumber and going through all that, and I called the guy up who was inspecting my plans, and I said, look, they denied me outright, and I said, are you sure that you're looking at the plans right? I was trying to approach it kind of, politically correct and be nice about it, but I said, I just want to make sure that you didn't mistake my plans, or, that you're not misunderstanding what I'm doing here. This isn't a commercial warehouse. It's my detached garage, and it's just a tiny little winery. It's not anything major. And he goes, oh, I understood your plans completely. And I said, so you're standing by this statement that you made that I cannot run out of this space and cannot, what was it? I forget what it was, but it was some rejection about the plumbing permit, that whole ordeal. And I said, well, so you're telling me that, you will not approve my plumbing permit as is. No, I will not. Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and cancel all of my business licenses. I'm going to shut everything down. I'm going to apply for this permit as a private citizen, and there isn't a damn thing you can do to stand in my way. And what do you think about that?
Nice.
I could actually feel his face getting red through the receiver on the phone. It's really mad.
You had his number. What did he say?
Oh, he yelled and said, "No, you can't do that. There's no way you can." And I said, "Okay, we'll see." That's the thing is with this whole process, it's persevering and just finding always looking for that way out, that different path that you can take to get to your objective. Getting stuck in that mindset that I have to go this way, I have to do it this way, it cannot change. It'll kill your business. And I'm lucky that I was able to continually adapt and continually look for that different way to get things done. And that's obviously it's worked for me at least to this point. But touch tail after the first time I said no, or 20 times, I wouldn't be where I'm at, and I wouldn't have my dream finally coming true for me.
So I guess the bottom line is, if you don't like the answer, change the question. If you don't like the answer, change the question. Try to get them to think.
I'm here.
Yeah, we lost Ryan again. Okay. All right. So we're going to add the Indiegogo to the page for those of us who can't hear Vicky.
Oh.
Because Vicky is currently a ghost in my ear right now.
Well, all right. If you guys don't have any other questions for me, I'd like to take off because I'll go kiss my daughters goodnight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
It was great having you on, man.
It was great having you describe some of the pitfalls and things to think about for anybody else who's looking at opening a meadery, and thank you very much for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
And I believe Vicky wanted to say thank you for your service as a ranger.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. All right, well, I'm out of here, you guys. Have a good night.
Good night. Take care.
All right, bye.
All right. So let's see. What's next, Vicky? Okay, so make sure you check out the links on our episode page at gotmead.com, and we tend to put up links to the things we're discussing there, including one for the Indiegogo that we've been talking about on this show. So May 23rd, that's tomorrow. Boss Meadery is having their Spare Time Bluegrass. May 26th, Medusa Meadery is having their 1-year anniversary party. May 27th, Wild Blossom Meadery is having cigars, sundresses, and wine. That sounds exciting. June 1st, Brothers Drake Meadery is having Nicholas on. August 4th to 5th, Bee Nectar Palooza, International Beer, Cider, and Mead Festival. And if you want to get your event on Got Mead Live, let us know at gotmead@gotmead.com. Please don't make us chase you down. This is free advertising. We want your stuff. Please send it to us. So what have we got next week? Okay, so we've
Billy
actually...
Belts, I think. Yep.
Billy Belts is actually coming next week. Awesome. So he's with Lost Cause Meadery. And the week after that, we've got Ryan doing some in-depth mead process conversation. Is that correct? Okay. Ryan has ideas, and we're going to share them with you. Be afraid. Be very afraid. All right, now, since nobody can hear Vicky, I guess we should just wrap this up, eh, Hamish?
That sounds like a plan. Yeah, sorry, I've had a bit of reception issues myself, so I've been in and out a little bit. I do apologize.
That's all good. Anyway, I guess I hope everybody had fun this show, and hopefully we'll have less technical issues next show. And see everybody same bad time, same bad channel next week. Good night, everybody.